Welcome to the CMMI Tech Talk, where we are beginning to explore how CMMI works with other frameworks, including SAFE. When CMMI Performance Solutions was released, one of the architectural changes included was a facility to provide context-specific information relating model content to specific areas of interest. In particular, one of the most significant additions was context information relating CMMI practices to agile approaches. In doing this, the CMMI team attempted to address a significant perceptual divide between the CMMI model, whose original pedigree was based on traditional waterfall phase gate approaches, and the more iterative agile approaches now becoming increasingly popular. The agile context information was based largely around Scrum, which has been almost synonymous with agile for many years and forms the basis for most agile approaches. Scrum is an extremely lightweight framework. The current Scrum guide is just 14 pages long, of which 4 pages are essentially pre- and post-amble and supporting materials. Part of the power of Scrum and related agile approaches is that they have been proven to be extremely effective in situations where the solution can be developed by a suitably sized team, typically 7 plus or minus 2 people. Scrum works well in such cases because teams of this size can usually collaborate effectively as a single unit. When team size increases beyond this point, individual interactions between all team members become more challenging and less manageable. How can we adopt agile approaches when the solution may need tens or even hundreds of engineers to work collaboratively? It is something of a cliche in the agile world that the first rule of scaling agile is not to scale at all. However, if you want to try to derive the benefits of an agile approach in a large solution situation, there are now many different frameworks out there that are intended to provide a scaled approach to agile. Scrum itself has a scaling framework, Scrum at Scale. And other options exist such as Nexus, Disciplined Agile Delivery, and Large-Scale Scrum. But arguably, the most popular of the bunch is the Scaled Agile Framework, or SAFE, as it is commonly known. SAFE is a freely available framework accessible from the Scaled Agile Incorporated website. It is backed up by a comprehensive training and certification program and a very active user community. At its heart, SAFE retains a lot of Scrum influences. It utilizes a slightly different vocabulary. For example, Scrum sprints are known as iterations in SAFE, but effectively maintains all of the key Scrum events referred to as ceremonies. However, what SAFE does that Scrum does not is to provide a framework for coordinating and synchronizing multiple agile teams. The purpose of this talk is not to provide an introductory tour of SAFE, but to look at the SAFE framework in the context of its relationship to the CMMI. However, it is difficult to do this without a degree of orientation to the SAFE framework. If you go to the SAFE homepage, the first thing you will be presented with is what is known as the big picture. This large and at first sight complex picture provides a very concise summary of the SAFE framework and is the starting point for all content exploration. Every item on the big picture is clickable and will bring up a comprehensive page of guidance material, all cross-linked. Unlike the diminutive Scrum guide, SAFE is big. A comprehensive mapping of CMMI practices to SAFE components is impractical for this talk. However, it is possible to pull out some areas of specific interest to help show how CMMI aligns with SAFE. The big picture itself is not a single high-level view of the SAFE framework, but a collection of 4 different selectable configurations that build on one another. These different configurations are selectable based on the nature of the organization that is adopting SAFE. Hence, the simplest configuration, Essential SAFE, is a basic version of SAFE with a minimal set of elements suitable for use in smaller, simpler SAFE implementations, whereas the Full SAFE configuration is the most comprehensive option and is suitable for large-scale SAFE implementations, possibly involving hundreds of developers and being applied across an entire enterprise. All configurations are layered, so the elements of Essential Safe exist in all 4 configurations, but are augmented by additional elements that extend or enhance the safe approach, depending on the organization or project's needs. In many respects, these 4 configurations represent different tailoring of the SAFE framework for use in specific circumstances. This is a basic form of tailoring applied at the organizational level. More detailed tailoring is achieved within the teams who are in accordance with Agile principles, are self-organizing and largely self-managing, and have the power to influence their own ways of working, or in other words, defining their project process in CMMI terms. Planning is a key area of the CMMI in which the existing context information provides guidance on applying the model to Agile organizations. Since SAFE has Scrum at its heart, the context information is still highly relevant. But because SAFE implicitly includes process elements to coordinate and manage multiple Agile teams, planning, like many other key concepts, is more layered in SAFE than in basic Agile teams. Planning reflects the structural organization of teams within the SAFE framework. At the lowest level, individual Agile teams plan and manage their work in short iterations, typically 2 to 3 weeks. However, in a SAFE implementation, teams do not work in isolation, but instead form part of a team of teams known as an Agile Release Train, or otherwise known as ART, A-R-T. To ensure teams are coordinating their efforts, it is necessary for them to periodically plan together for the next program increment, PI, a regular time box consisting of around 5 or 6 iterations. SAFE defines a big room planning event called PI planning, where all teams within an ART come together and plan the next program increment collaboratively. In large-scale SAFE implementations, multiple ARTs may be aggregated into development value streams, which may then require an extended PI planning event to cater to the inter-ART aspects of planning. PI planning is fundamental to SAFE, and there is a very strong correlation between the activities of PI planning and the planning or plan practice area practices within CMMI. By ensuring all teams are planning together, critical dependencies are uncovered and negotiated. Plan 3.3. The feasibility of plans based on available resources is assessed and adjusted. Plan 2.6. Consistency across multiple team plans is ensured through close collaboration. Plan 2.7. And plans are reviewed and committed to by all stakeholders. Plan 2.8. Another area where there is an obvious correlation between CMMI practices and SAFE elements is in the approach to requirements. In SAFE, requirements are managed as a hierarchy of backlog items, which are managed through a cascade of prioritized backlogs refined through lean-style Kanbans. Backlog items represent distinct elements of value within the final system. At the highest level, we have epics, which may be broken down into capabilities, then into epics, and finally into stories. Epics are high-level, wide-scope descriptions of a system or system component and usually have a business case associated with them. Stories are the lowest level backlog item and represent a small but ideally independent piece of functionality that can be delivered from start to finish in a single iteration. Requirements development in SAFE is all about decomposing high-level backlog items into lower-level ones, continuously refining and agreeing to understand the item as they progress until ultimately they are sufficiently refined and understood and can be implemented by the Agile teams. Refinement of a backlog item is done using lean Kanban boards, which pull items through to development as development capacity permits. When a higher-level backlog item is sufficiently refined, or in other words, understood at that level, it can feed into the next level of Kanban for further decomposition and refinement. This continues until the team ends up with stories that can be taken by the Agile teams and planned into their iterations. The continuous refinement in understanding and prioritization of requirements is clearly coupled with the requirements development and management, or RDM practices in CMMI. In conclusion, SAFE is a large framework supported by a huge body of knowledge and an active user community. Through looking at a couple of key areas of planning and requirement development, we have seen a high degree of correlation between many of the CMMI practice areas and the SAFE framework entities. We've also seen how SAFE provides some support for some of the fundamental CMMI concepts, such as tailoring standard processes to form project-specific defined processes. Thank you for joining us for the CMMI Tech Talk. If you have questions, please contact us at support.isaca.org.